The night sky was clear over Earth. Cities glowed. Families ate dinner. Children laughed. No one knew this was the last quiet night for a long time. At exactly midnight, everything changed. Screens flickered. Radios turned to static. Then, all at once, every device, every phone, every television, every satellite showed the same thing. A face. Not human. Its skin was gray-blue, its eyes like burning ice. It didn't blink. Its voice was cold and deep. "This is the Varnock Empire. We demand your submission. Surrender your planet, your people, and your weapons. You have 7 days." The signal ended. Panic spread fast. News channels called it a hoax. Some believed it was fake. Others weren't so sure. But in space, near the edge of the solar system, massive shapes began to appear. Alien ships, sharp, black, glowing with strange lights, moved closer to Earth. The world united, but too late. Earth had no space fleet strong enough to face them. No laser weapons. No planetary shields. Leaders met in secret bunkers. They argued. Some wanted to beg for peace. Others talked of surrender. But in the shadows of the planet, far from cities and news cameras, someone gave a different order. Send the signal. Activate Project Black Armada. Deep under the oceans and hidden in orbit behind moons and asteroids, something old and powerful woke up. Long ago, after the first alien probe was found in space, a group of humans began preparing. Quietly. Secretly. A fleet was built in the dark, ships made for one purpose: survival. Now, after decades of silence, they would rise. The aliens had no idea Earth had a hidden armada. They thought humans were weak, unready. But far beyond Earth's surface, near Saturn's rings, black ships began to move. Their engines burned blue. Their hulls were coated in stealth armor. No one saw them coming. No one, except one person. A young communications officer at an alien listening station picked up a strange signal. It wasn't alien. It was human, and it was coming fast. The message was short, just 3 words: "We are coming." Then the human ships disappeared from scanners. Silence again. The Varnock Empire thought Earth would kneel. But Earth had answered, and the Black Armada had begun to rise. The stars over Saturn shimmered like frozen fire. A silent storm was building behind its rings. Huge shadows moved slowly, gliding like giants through the dark. They made no sound. No light escaped their hulls. They were part of a secret built long ago. A fleet designed in fear but now awakened in defiance. The world still didn't know what was coming. Far below, Earth was still spinning in confusion. News channels screamed about aliens. Governments were collapsing under panic. People were fleeing cities, searching for safety that didn't exist. Fear was in every breath. No one could see a way out. But high above, far from fear, a man named Ares watched from his command chair. He had trained for this moment his entire life. The Black Armada was ready. Inside the command ship Obsidian Dawn, Ares stood silent, watching the enemy's movements through a wide, glowing screen. Around him, officers in black uniforms moved quickly, calm, focused. They had known this day would come. The alien ships had entered Jupiter's orbit. Their pattern was slow but clear. They were scanning, testing, preparing to strike. Earth's defenses wouldn't last a minute once they attacked, but the aliens didn't know about Saturn. They didn't know about the ships hiding inside its rings. And they didn't know about Ares. He had no speeches, no anger, just a quiet voice as he gave his order. Begin silent deployment. Across the fleet, engines came to life, not with flames or noise, but with smooth blue pulses that made no radar echo. Like hunters in the night, the Black Armada moved toward the enemy. No warning, no light, no mercy. Back on Earth, deep in a forgotten underground facility, an old man listened to the same order from a dusty speaker. He smiled. Years ago, he had warned the world about the stars. No one listened. They called him paranoid. They shut down his work. But he didn't stop. He went underground, built allies, designed ships, planted commanders like Ares in key positions. And now, as the Black Armada moved like shadows across the solar system, he knew. This was the beginning of Earth's answer. Inside one of the alien scout ships near Mars, a pilot stared at his screen. For a second he thought he saw something. A flicker. A shadow. Then nothing. He blinked. Then the ship shook. Lights died. Controls froze. A pulse of energy struck from the dark. Not a beam. Not an explosion. A silent wave. The alien scout vanished from the system. No debris. No escape. Just gone. Back on the Obsidian Dawn, Ares spoke again. Scout 1 confirmed. No signal return. His officers nodded. One of them leaned close. Sir, won't this alert the rest? Ares looked at the screen. Let them wonder. Far away, deep inside the enemy's lead cruiser, alarms began to scream. They didn't know who attacked. They didn't know how. All they had was a burst of energy. And then silence. In that silence, one thing became clear. Earth had not surrendered. Earth was watching, and the Black Armada was already moving. A strange silence settled across the void near Jupiter. The Varnock fleet, confident and proud, had begun to slow. Something wasn't right. One of their scout ships was no longer responding. The last signal it sent ended mid-transmission, cut clean. No explosion. No warning, just a flicker, and then nothing. Inside the Empire's command vessel, the High Observer stood still. His long cloak floated slightly in the artificial gravity, and his glowing eyes narrowed. He had seen many planets fall, many species surrender without a fight. But this was something new. Across his bridge, alien officers scanned data, again and again. Still no trace of the missing ship. No cause, no clue. In the corner of the room, a quiet light blinked red, a human-made signal. Weak, but clear, it repeated 3 words. You are seen. The High Observer stepped closer. For the first time in many years, he felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Meanwhile, beyond Saturn, the Black Armada moved through space like a ghost. Dozens of ships, large and small, formed into silent formations. They didn't broadcast signals. They didn't light up engines. They simply floated, waiting for the moment to strike again. Commander Ares stood at the front of the command deck. He had not rested since the launch. But his eyes were sharp, focused. Bring us into position, he said. The fleet obeyed without a word. Each ship was armed with technology never revealed to the world, designed not for show, but for survival. Their weapons weren't built for intimidation. They were built for precision, for strategy, for turning fear into control. Far across the battlefield, 3 more alien scouts moved forward, unaware they were being watched. Inside one of the Black Armada ships, a young human officer tapped a screen gently. A red line locked onto one of the enemy vessels. A quiet signal passed through space, faster than light, impossible to trace. 3 targets disappeared, one after another. No light, no noise, just absence. In the alien fleet, tension grew. Their communication patterns changed. Officers whispered. Engines shifted formation. They still believed they could win, but the silence was growing louder. Every time they reached for a ship, it was gone. Inside the Obsidian Dawn, Ares leaned back. He knew the time for hiding was almost over. We send the message, he said. Let them see us. From deep space, 3 human ships suddenly appeared, breaking stealth for the first time. They glided through the void with dark metal and blue glow, facing the heart of the alien fleet. Cameras turned. Alien eyes stared. For a moment, time stood still. Then the human ships fired warning bursts, measured, controlled. Not to destroy, just to speak. The message was not words, it was presence. The Varnock ships backed away slightly, confused. For the first time, they saw their opponent, not weak, not afraid. Waiting. Back on Earth, hidden command stations tracked the whole event. Governments watched in silence. Citizens began hearing rumors. Earth had a fleet, Earth had a plan, and Earth was not alone in space anymore. Ares watched the alien fleet move. "They're testing us," said his second-in-command. "They're wrong," Ares replied. "This is not a test." A moment later, something unexpected happened. One of the enemy cruisers turned. It moved fast, breaking away from its formation, and headed straight toward Earth. No more scouts. No more scans. The first true threat had begun. But this time, Earth was ready, and the stars were watching. The skies above Earth had never looked more peaceful, but deep below the surface, tension hung heavy in every command bunker. The countdown had begun. One alien cruiser, larger than any building on the planet, was now closing the distance between Mars and Earth. Its glowing engines cut across space like a spear. It carried no diplomats. It did not stop to communicate. It did not change course, it was coming. The world's satellites caught the movement. Scientists tried to calculate impact zones. Military leaders argued about next steps. But far above them all, orbiting in silence, the Black Armada already had its orders. Commander Ares stood with his hands behind his back, watching the live projection of the enemy ship. "It's not just a ship," he said quietly. "It's a message." The bridge of obsidian dawn fell silent. Everyone understood. The Varnock Empire was no longer asking. It was preparing to end the conversation. Back on Earth, the population braced for the unknown. Cities dimmed their lights. Communication networks slowed. Emergency shelters opened in every region, though most people had no idea what to expect. The news told them to remain calm, but fear was stronger than any headline. And yet, in the heart of the Pacific Ocean, beneath layers of water and steel, something ancient was waking. Project Eclipse. Buried decades ago, known only to a few, Project Eclipse was never part of any army or space force. It was a single device. A last resort. Created by engineers and thinkers who feared that someday Earth would be outmatched, outgunned, out of time. Now, its activation code had been sent. In the hidden chamber that housed it, a soft pulse began to glow. Systems long asleep sparked too, life. And far above, on the deck of a smaller Black Armada ship orbiting the moon, a single word appeared on a pilot's screen. Eclipse. Armed. But even as Earth's greatest secret stirred, something unexpected happened. A message arrived, not from the enemy, but from within, encrypted, human, and not part of any command system. It read, "Stand down. Surrender is still possible. This war is not worth the cost." Commander Ares read it once, then again. He looked at his communications chief. "Who sent this?" The answer came slowly. It was routed through 6 old defense satellites, military grade, access codes, match someone from the original Eclipse team. Silence returned. It wasn't just a message, it was a betrayal. Somewhere deep in Earth's leadership, someone had broken, someone had chosen fear over resistance. And worse, the signal had gone beyond Earth. The enemy had picked it up. The alien cruiser changed course again. Its engines surged. It moved faster, not slower, like a predator sensing weakness. On the bridge of obsidian dawn, Ares made his decision. Deploy. The third wave. Intercept before lunar orbit. Don't wait. Across space, Black Armada ships flared into motion. They left their hiding positions, surrounding the alien cruiser's projected path. But now, the game had changed. It was no longer just ships against ships, it was trust against betrayal. It was unity against doubt. Back on Earth, in a secret underground chamber, a small group of powerful people met in the dark. Their faces were pale, their words careful. They had made a choice. They believed resistance would bring only ruin. They were wrong. Far above them, a new transmission was sent, this time from Ares himself. He spoke only one line, sent to every corner of the planet. Humanity doesn't bend. We remember who we are. And the Black Armada surged forward, chasing the dark shape that now threatened their home. The stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked alive, and the fight for Earth had truly begun. The moon hung still and silent, in the sky, a pale witness to the approaching storm. Below its surface, humanity's secret guardians moved into position. And beyond, in the deep black between planets, two very different forces were now on a collision course. The alien cruiser, cut through space like a blade, its path steady, its intent clear. But this time it wasn't heading for Earth directly. It had shifted, curving toward the dark side of the moon, toward something hidden, something the Varnock Empire must have detected only now. The Black Armada. The cruiser wasn't just attacking. It was probing, hunting, trying to reveal everything Earth had left to fight with. But Commander Ares already knew what they were doing, and he had no plans to let them see the full picture. He stood at the front of Obsidian Dawn's command bridge, his eyes locked on the fast-approaching enemy ship. Around him, every officer was calm, waiting, not for orders but for the moment. That had been planned years ago. "We don't engage it head-on," Ares said. "We guide it." That's when the plan began. Smaller Black Armada ships launched from hidden moon craters, gliding without sound into the enemy's path. They didn't fire. They didn't signal. They simply passed close. Too close. Each one dropped a small, harmless-looking pod behind. The alien cruiser ignored them. But the pods weren't weapons. They were mirrors. Special tech that bent signals, reflected energy, confused sensors. Soon the cruiser's vision of the battlefield began to blur. Inside the alien command center, warnings started to flash. Readings twisted. Distances changed. It wasn't being attacked, but it couldn't see clearly anymore. The battlefield had become a maze. Meanwhile, far below on Earth, the unrest was growing. News of the approaching ship had reached the public. People looked up at the stars, not with wonder, but with questions. Was this the end? Was there still hope? Then something unexpected happened. Across the globe, old satellites blinked back to life. Each one had been forgotten, turned off, or left behind. But now, they began broadcasting the same feed, a signal showing the Black Armada in motion, protecting Earth, intercepting the invader. For the first time, the world saw its defenders, and for the first time, the fear began to change. Not into peace, but into belief. Back in orbit, the cruiser struggled to adjust. It tried to climb above the moon's orbit, but more Black Armada ships met it there. Still not firing, just guiding, blocking, forcing it lower. Commander Ares watched silently as the ship was herded into a narrow corridor between the moons, shadow and a field of stealth mines long ago planted there. The enemy had no idea they were walking into a trap. "We begin Phase 2, he said. The pods released earlier came to life. They sent out false signals, echoing strange patterns the Varnock would think were other human ships. The cruiser turned, confused, its scanners showing shadows everywhere. Then the real surprise came. The cruiser's lights dimmed, its power flickered, its engines slowed, just slightly. Not from attack, from interference. Project Eclipse had finished, charging. The signal from the Pacific Deep Site had reached the upper orbit array, and now, from 3 different satellites above the moon, a low-frequency pulse was being emitted, calibrated to one purpose: disabling any tech that didn't come from Earth. Not permanently, not destructively, but enough to cause disorientation. Inside, the cruiser, alien officers moved quickly. Systems refused to obey. Commands stalled. A strange hum filled the air. They had planned for battle. They hadn't planned for confusion. The ship veered off course, losing altitude. In that moment, the largest of the Black Armada vessels, Eclipse 1, revealed itself. It was slow. It was massive. And it had been silent since the beginning of the war. Now it opened its wings. Gleaming panels unfolded across its sides, revealing the most advanced tech ever built on Earth, designed not to destroy but to disable, to neutralize, to show power without causing ruin. The alien cruiser's lights blinked once more, then faded. It was caught, held not by force but by design. Commander Ares watched the data pour in. "No damage, no loss of life," said his systems chief. Let them know? Ares replied. We could have done more. But we didn't. A new message was sent, not just to the alien cruiser, but to the entire Varnock fleet beyond Mars. It read, You came with threats. We answered with control. Choose what comes next. There was no reply. But far beyond the battle zone, deep inside, the Varnock flagship, something shifted. Not weapons, not ships, but thought. For the first time, the Empire hesitated. And Earth, still standing, had made its move. Far beyond Earth's orbit, where sunlight barely reached and radio waves faded into silence, the Varnock Empire's command vessel floated like a dark monument to control. Inside, rows of shimmering beings gathered. Around the central chamber, their faces unreadable, their minds locked in shared thought. They had seen the feed. They had watched one of their own cruisers slowed, guided, and then captured, without a single destructive act. Not destroyed. Not harmed, just stopped. It had never happened before. Across the Empire's fleet, silence spread, not because of fear, but because of something deeper. Uncertainty. The humans had not answered the threat with surrender, nor had they answered it with blind force. They had answered with something the Varnock did not expect. Strategy. Above Earth, the Black Armada held position. Ships hovered like sentinels, unmoving, but very much alive. The once captured cruiser now floated gently beneath Eclipse 1, completely offline but untouched. Inside Obsidian Dawn, Commander Ares studied the data. His officers were calm, but he could feel it. Something was shifting across the system. The game was no longer about weapons or numbers. It had become about perception, timing, and trust. A message came through, unmarked, unscheduled, untranslated. It was from the Varnock. Ares leaned forward. Put it on screen. A shimmering form appeared, tall, radiant, with smooth silver skin and glowing eyes. It said nothing at first. Then in clear and simple English it spoke. Your species has grown beyond what we were told. No threats, no demands, just a single sentence. Ares responded with a nod. You saw what we are willing to do, and what we're not. The alien studied him, eyes blinking slowly. Your technology is not older than ours, but your choices are unfamiliar. A pause. Then the alien continued. We came expecting submission. We now see something else. Something that cannot be explained through force. The signal ended. No reply was sent. None was needed. Far above Neptune, the remaining Varnock warships began to shift formation. Their engines lit, but not toward Earth. They were changing direction, pulling back, not fleeing, not retreating, recalculating. Ares stood slowly. Track them, he said, but don't follow. On Earth, people slowly emerged from shelters. Families looked to the skies, not with fear this time, but with awe. The planet had stood on the edge, and it had not fallen. Instead of sirens, broadcasts now played something else. Images of the Black Armada floating in perfect silence above the world. Their outlines shimmered in orbit, distant, but unmistakably, there, hope. That's what the world was feeling now. Not just relief, but a new awareness. Earth was not alone. It was no longer just a blue planet turning in a quiet corner of space. It had a voice now, a fleet, a future. In a quiet room deep underground, the man who had first built Project Eclipse sat back in his chair, listening to the news in every language. His time was nearly over, but he smiled. The world had caught up. In the Pacific, the Eclipse array powered down, its purpose fulfilled, for now, and high above, the Black Armada stayed in formation, watching, waiting, not because another attack was expected, but because something else had begun. Respect. For the first time, the stars were not a warning. They were an invitation, and humanity was ready to answer. The story was no longer about survival. It was about what came next.